Thank you so much, Jenny, for interviewing me. I'm Kevin Hsieh, and I'm originally from Taiwan. I moved here when I was 12, and I first moved to Irvine, and that's where I pretty much grew up for the next 10 years of my life. But I never had the chance to go back because my parents actually bought a one-way ticket for me when I was 12. And so that's why when I finished university at the UC Irvine, I really wanted to explore Taiwan. So I made a decision to study abroad for my master's program at National Taiwan University, studying electrical engineering and medical technology. And I really enjoyed it. And it almost gave me this reverse cultural shock as well. But in that way, that's the moment. That was like 2010, right? So it gave me the reason why I want to share this story is because it kind of gave me this a firmer understanding of my identity and what I want to do with my career and life. Right? Because being an immigrant growing up in the US, I always have this conflict. Should I be more Taiwanese or am I more American? But then I think after studying abroad and starting working some of the Taiwanese company, I realized that I want to be the liaison. I want to be able to connect both sides. And it doesn't matter if I want to be one side or other, and it should be a balance, right? And I actually enjoy that a lot, and I fully embrace that all the way until fast forwarding all the way till now. So in the past years, for the first 5 years, I did a lot of I work at Foxconn. I did a lot of times liaison between working with the U.S. customer on the daytime job, and then working with the factory in Taiwan or China at night. Right, they always try to connecting that, and that's something I really enjoy. So later, I started my own company. I actually joined that company as a third person and become a late co-founder. And that was in a startup in the smart home space. And then in the past 10 years, I've mainly focused on two type of product and trend. One is AI. How do I use AI to make the world better? And secondly, how do I build the actual application and making sure that the AI technology is actually helping people and connecting them or making their life easier and not trying to just replace them, right, literally. Yeah, so with that said, right now I'm a founder at MirWork because and the MirWork stands for mock interview robot, where I really believe that people can practice and become a better version of themselves. Because that's kind of how I got into Meta in the first place before MirWork. I did 200 mock interviews, really trying to learn about the community and build my own community and just help people along the way. Yeah, so maybe I'll just pause here for now, and then, and then for MirWork, I just wanted to just like really appreciate the Taiwan Next, right? Because I think Taiwan Next was one of the early, whether the partner sponsor to invite me to share my stories in front of a lot of my professional audiences. So I was able to kind of polish the product and making sure that some of the early experience of the product is really helpful for the career seekers. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that you talked about
Mm,
because
mm,
it sounds the problem that you were trying to solve when you first started this company is to kind
mm,
of help people do mock interviews. Is that,
mhm.
is that the intention?
Yes. So before I started Miro, I actually have been coaching a lot of students in the past 5 or 6 years, maybe almost like 400 students, if not more. So a lot of problem that I ran into is people actually don't really practice for interview, and especially for those product manager case style interviews, there's such a low hanging fruit. You know they're gonna ask this kind of question, and there's even a lot of resource online on what are they looking for, why do they ask those questions, and how should you answer each of those responses. Right? You'll be surprised that most people still don't practice and they show up. Right. So that's why I thought it was. First of all, I'm really grateful. I met over 100 people throughout the 200 mock interviews, and a lot of people actually really want to give back to the community and help others as well. So I try to do the same, and it just from that experience of helping more people that led me to believe that actually I can build something like this to help more people because my time is really limited to me with the people, right? Just one quick stats is during the pandemic, I tried to do coffee chat with people. I met with over 1,000 strangers online. Yeah, so well, I really took 3 4 years to talk to that many people, and it was so eye opening. I learned so many things from other people. So I really think everyone is talented in their own way, and they just need some help along the way to find their next best opportunity. Right? Same with me. I throughout a lot of the volunteering work I do at NTUAA and the Taita, I was able to connect with many Taiwanese founder or business executive who helped me find my first job. Right? So I think this is something we can never over communicate or help each other more. Right. So that's why I believe in that. And that's how MirWork first started. But fast forwarding maybe 1 year into MirWork, after like thousands of people using the product to practice, and we started to help more people find job. Then we realized there's actually a lot of problem in hiring, right? Sometimes it's not just interview. Sometimes people can't even get interview, right? Or sometimes people need to get offer negotiation help and all these other things. And it's actually the same problem on the other side as well. Hiring team have been consistently talking to us that there's just way too many people applying to the job. It's now they don't want to they want to talk to everybody, but they just don't have time. Right. So then we kind of think about how do we make sure we build a product that can actually connect both sides, and because it takes two sides of the party to make the match. So we're kind of shifting kind of the pivoted the product a little bit using the same technology to build a site that can help the company do assessment on the candidate as well. So right now that those are the two main approach of the product that we're building right now. And we have been so grateful that we have some customer in Taiwan, some customer in Japan, and most of our customer in the United States. But we're still trying to do more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mm.
Jumping back to the coffee chat, so what inspired
Yes.
talk to 1,600 people? Or what was
Yeah, like 1,000 people. I think it's a really interesting. I think one of my mentor talked to me. I think this is something. Let me see if I can how I can share this story. First of all, there are a lot of commonality in the discussion when why people are open for coffee chat. Mainly it's because first of all is they're stuck in whether at home during pandemic or they're feeling stuck at work, right? Because it's not moving or not progressing in the way that they want to be. So that's why people are open to talk to others and share their learning or help each other. Yeah, and then secondly is I think coffee chat is a really good approach to open door to new opportunities. And we're just so blessed in Bay Area, especially Silicon Valley in general. People are just so open to learn about what other people are doing, or even explore what's out there, and even just think more globally as we are all living on this in the earth at the same time. Right. So I think that's why it's so eye opening for me. Yeah, mainly from the inspiration of talking to so many people doing those mock interview. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bay Area is a great place for that, for people who are
Mhm.
very open and kind of cosmopolitan. Yeah. So,
Correct.
mm,
Mhm.
yeah, and how you kind of touched on, bridging both Taiwan and the US. Do you want to
Mhm.
tell us how you got started with Taiwan Next, how you heard about Taiwan Next, and then
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely heard about Taiwan Next a long time ago because when I first moved to 2012, I started to attend some of the Taiwanese community events. Right, so I think that back then that's how I heard about it, but I wasn't that super active or attended most of the biggest the events. Many I was just joining the other one called the Taita and the Alumni Association. Right, so I think if I need to think back when I really get to know Taiwan Next, I think it was through one of the mutual mentor. I think Chi Guan, who was ex LinkedIn data science director. He's kind of one of my mentors. So he really tried to talk to me during the early idea stage of MirWork, and then he would treat me to some of the yeah, probably not coffee chat, like tea chat, right? He would take me to a special tea shop, and then he would
yeah,
tell me about yeah. Sorry, what you say?
Oh, I mean, coffee and or tea. I think either is, so
Yeah, yeah, same. Yeah, so he was actually trying to help me get some early adopter as well, right? And then he told me there's this community called Taiwan Next, which I already knew before because I followed Katie's Facebook like long time ago before I know Taiwan Next, right? So that's why he tried to connect me with the person who's organizing the career events. And because he thought I would be a good fit for some of the potential speaker events. All right, so that's kind of maybe that's almost two years ago. Yeah, when I first really get involved and try to come up with some venue or topic that can be more suitable for your Taiwan Nexus audience, right? And I think I've been to maybe 3 or 4 events ever since. And every time I go there, I'm just so excited about how can you find that many Taiwanese people in the Bay Area, and then everyone is like just so kind and trying to learn and try to support each other, right? So I thought that was really beautiful. That's really awesome.
yeah, yeah, I agree. It's great to kind of get everyone together, especially people who have
Mhm.
similar experiences and yeah. And
Yes.
you mentioned your mentor. So is that kind of
Mm.
what inspired you to kind of give back to the community?
Yeah, actually, that's so right because I feel one of the things I forgot to mention to you is it's doing for the mentorship. I met so many mentor and just people who are just so kind to spend some time, maybe it's half an hour, just quarterly or annually, to catch up on life. Yeah, so there are so many people that from the Taiwanese communities who have been helping me. And so that's why I firmly believe that I can never give more than what I take in society. So in the past 15 years from when all this volunteering and the Tai Tai and the alumni association, I actually help to do a referral or just help people connect, just totally volunteering, right, for the over 10 years. And it has been so wonderful to see people actually build up a good and genuine long-term relationship and just slowly run into each other serendipitously and just at different Taiwanese events, right, or even other events. So that part I believe is something really I cherish a lot because I think before I co-host some event with Taiwanese, I've attended events from the user design, Taiwan user design, or the data science community from Chi. This for maybe 10 years ago. Yeah. So I think all those things that we're doing is really helpful for, especially for people who first move to here from Taiwan or from other side of the United States. Right. So I think it's really good that we have a group of people who are really taking care of others for the like kind of like a higher meaning in their own career or life goals. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
I think moving to a new place is already challenging,
Mm.
but it's really nice that there's a community that kind of can help you out.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's especially good that you're willing to give back because a lot of people, maybe they'll just kind of receive and maybe not give back, but it's
Mm.
great you're showing that, both receiving and giving back is important. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I actually believe when you give more, you actually will receive more as well. Like but that's more. You don't have to think about it that way, right? Because I think life is, even though it's 80, 90 years, it's kind of long still, right? So I don't think you want to build something too short term, right? Because I think the the circle, first of all, the circle is super small, and people all know each other, especially at the higher stake conversations. So I think building a good long term relationship with everyone will go a really long way, right? There are two phrases I really one is people often overestimate how much they can do in a year, they underestimate how much they can do in a decade, right? So I really believe something like that, and I feel I'm also at a stage where I'm not trying to rush things every day and then do 20% of and not sleep. So that's why the more I mature, get older, I feel building a long-term a community and long-term relationship is really something that help me feel peaceful and help me feel impactful to the society and
yeah.
find peace with myself. Yeah.
I that
Mm,
their thought process includes foresight because that's always important.
mhm.
Yeah. So just
Yes.
back to more of your career trajectory. So you've been both a senior, management inside a
Mhm.
large organization, and then now you're
Yes.
a founder. And
Mm.
so what has kind of maybe it might be a culture shock, in a sense that
Mm.
you've gone from a big company to a smaller
Yes.
place. So I guess, do you think your kind of corporate experience has prepared you well, or yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I get asked that a lot, right? So this was one of the product I was working on back in Meta. It's a wearable device, AI, AR kind of product, and then you can use the device to whether ask AI about translation or ask it to call someone, right? So the reason why I show you this, like, this one device at a Meta, it can be built by 5,000 people, right? And I'm even though I was a senior person working with hundreds of engineers. I, I I don't really get to see the whole picture, right? Even though I can see a lot of things, and so that's one of the challenge I feel. It's kind of I can't really touch the customer. I'm the product manager. The product manager is supposed to be the champion of the user, right? But then we have Meta has so many talented people, and then people do things really seriously there. So the thing they do is they will have a marketing team, design team, research team, and then all those people are hundred of people, right? And then by the time I hear the feedback, it could be months, right?
Mm,
And then when they plan out this product, they will launch it maybe 5 year, 10 year ago, right? So I think in a way that's super valuable to kind of in a way to learn how does a big company so successful how structurally operate, right?
mhm,
But at the same time, I feel my previous startup experience were maybe with a similar product, maybe not as cool as the Meta glasses, but maybe we have 5 people or 10 people just to hack everything together. Right? It might not be the coolest experience, but it will probably just work and give us a half a year or something. We'll try to super glue something together to make sure we can launch it, right? So I think that's the part that I really feel I enjoy. At the same time, I really want to be close to the customers and users. So that's kind of the main contributing factor that I want to pursue my own startup. I feel this is also a different type of thought process at different stage of life, right? Because about 12 years ago, I joined the first startup, and I was the 15th person or something, and then I was the first person on the product team. And right before I joined, they went IPO, and I was able to kind of witness. Oh wow, my boss actually went to Nasdaq and hit the bell, and then all this thing is happening. It's not really. It's actually valuable.
mhm,
So that was a really big anchor that always try to push me. Oh, maybe it's not that hard. Maybe I can try it. Silicon Valley. I should try something. Like maybe it's a little bit formal, but it's more about how do I drive impact in the limited time and the attention I have. So that's the main reason I wanted to do something this, right? Because it's so tough in a way, but it's so fun. Right? Every day I wake up, I feel really meaningful, and I want to do those things. I want to. I know it's gonna be tough, but I really want to face them and continue to do it. Right. So
mhm.
so yeah, that's kind of the main drive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or too much coffee.
Oh, I understand. That's
Mm,
relatable. Yeah.
mm,
And I think having been
mm,
in product myself, I definitely understand that product
mm.
development pipeline and also, being close to the user,
Yes.
yeah, and getting their feedback because that's how it drives the product development.
Mm, mm,
Mhm. So I guess, since you are able to kind of bridge both worlds, both Taiwan
mhm,
and US, what do you think can help people in Taiwan prepare for a US market? What else can they do to,
mm.
other than obviously, improve their English and then have solid technical skills or, whatever skills they need for the job.
This is one of my most favorite topic, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I think maybe you have heard from a lot of people already, because first of all, I feel Asian people, especially Taiwanese people, I think way too humble, right? Not in a bad way. It's more in a way that it might hinder you from getting the recognition you actually deserve, especially at a big corporate company. Right. So one of the feedback I already I mean I kind of came here a little bit later than you. Right? I was in eighth grade, but then even back in Taiwan, I remember I always want to raise my hand, and my maybe I'm the older generation. So my teacher used to tell me not to raise hand and not to ask too many questions and not to be the thrown in the classroom or something. But then when
Yeah.
I came over here, I was, oh my God, I'm just so shy. People are so talkative. Everybody is raising their hand. And that's, I think, for a reason. There is some sort of reward system for whether it's self-promotion or because of the whole overall culture. You have to speak for yourself, or you have to get kind of fight for your own kind of recognition, right? So especially in the big tech, I feel one of the things I noticed from the especially Taiwanese people is the scope or how you approach things tend to be kind of taken in the wrong way, more passive or less talkative, right? So in a way that it is very difficult for for your team or for your management team to recognize your impact, right? Because for example, people sometimes they will talk about this, but they actually can do this much, right? But then I think a lot of the Taiwanese student I talk to, they might be doing 100%, but they only say they're 60%, right? So I think systematically it's happening, but also individually, they're not maybe they're not being rewarded in a way that if they talk too much or talk too proud in
Mhm.
front of especially senior people, right? But I especially at big tech here, you have to promote, right? Self promote, or you have to promote not just yourself, but you also have to promote others around you, right? Or and you have to talk not just to your manager, but also your skip or even influence the organization's head, right? So I think that part I can never stress enough because that is something that's really hurting how your candidacy get Taiwanese candidacy gets seen, right? Because that's one, especially in management role. Maybe for engineering or some very technical roles, you just need to show impact in whether the code or some sort of contribution on the GitHub, right? But I think more and more so is AI is advancing a lot of the contribution for technical impact. And then people in general need to be more outspoken in a way to show their impact. But when I say outspoken, it's more improve the communication skill, right? Because I don't think everybody person who always shout about, hey, look at me, right? But it's more about how do you find a way that can really show your impact to your whether to your peer, to your manager, and to your people you manage, right? So if the people, so similar to interview, right? If you are an interviewee would prefer writing or you know how to design very beautiful things. Maybe for here I'm talking about product management role, right? So you can use typing or you can use a note taker to enhance that experience for the hiring manager instead of just talking, right? Because I think talking is one way to communicate, but a lot of company value writing or even doing the presentation slides, right? So I think there's a combination of things we need to find out about ourselves, and you need to also present it in a way that people kind of can see that and also find you valuable. It's really the art, right? I think especially a big tech versus small company, it's a very different things.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And then I think you're
Mm,
right about how it's rewarded in the US
mm,
to
mm.
be more outspoken about what you're doing or what you've achieved, as opposed to
Correct.
in Asia where I feel it's even perhaps even punished if you kind of promote yourself. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
No, I think so. I've been talking to the younger people who are coming to it from Taiwan, especially at my office right now. There's a group of visiting scholars from on my school where they are exploring a startup project, right? I try to check with them. It seems now with the less and less childbirth, I think it's more encouraging now. They encourage more of the students to share their thought right now. But yeah, I still think this is a very big topic, right? And then in addition to that, it's more about I don't know. I don't want to say thick skin the thing, but it is a skill, right? You really need to. I'm not saying that you have to step out outside your comfort zone for everything, right? But for especially for work or professional things, sometimes you do need to be able to bear that uncomfortable situation, or even if people are really trying to get to you, you really just have to find a way to keep a peaceful mind, but also own whether own failure or own the success, right? I think that's something that it's really hard to teach, but I've been trying to kind of show some example, whether from the more famous person or from like using case study from the students examples. But I think being able to really own the situation or just have this the thick skin to not take no for an answer,
Mhm.
because especially for B2B SaaS I'm in right now, I feel a lot of times people just need more time to build trust, right? And if you just say give up so easily, you will lose a lot of the opportunity. Yeah. Mm.
For sure. You may have touched on this, but
Mm.
wait, are you kind of referring to a fear of
Mm.
failure that I feel that a lot of the East Asians are brought up with?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I feel this is something that's a huge topic, right? So even me back in high school, I remember, uh, yeah, maybe including me as well. My Asian friend, my Asian peer will be like, "Oh, I got A minus. This is so bad, right? This is horrible." But then a person, American friend would be, like, "Oh, I'm so happy I got a C plus, right?" So like, things like this in general just keep happening, right? And then but I think there's always a boundary to what you really want. It's not like we want everyone to to embrace failure and just go crazy, right? It's more it's okay to fail sometime, and then of course at the end of the day we want to win most of the time, right? But I think you cannot have perfection anywhere, right? Even sometimes a perfection in certain field might mean there is some other area for improvement in other field, right? So I think that's why I found peace with myself, but I think a lot of the time it's a mental struggle and physical struggle, right? Because it is real, and everyone feel they are carrying their. I don't know if everyone, but most people I think they have some sort of they want to carry their families the heritage, or they are the face of the family, right? So they just really don't want to mess up on anything, right? Because it's a pretty hard burden, but at the same time it shouldn't be that. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not saying I'm right, or I don't think there's a right or wrong, right? But I do think there's a balance, especially if you want to be successful in the American mainstream culture. It's okay to make a mistake, right? Just own it and then move on, right? Who cares, right? And then before everybody, I'm not a saint. I made mistake, right? But I want to fix it, right? So I feel like that's something is hard to learn, but
Mhm.
we do need to learn that, or else you can never find peace with yourself, and then it will hinder your way to improve, yeah, and get potentially promotion or make a more meaningful connection.
Yeah. Do you think that
Mm,
kind of, I guess,
mm,
hesitancy is kind of limiting people, at least, especially people who grew up in East Asia or Taiwan, in the sense that, they might be more risk averse, so they might choose a bigger
mm,
company as opposed to a smaller company, or they may not, because, or they may not choose something that is more risky.
mm. I feel this is. I definitely don't want to generalize different segment of people. I think it's more like a general observation of what I saw. And first of all, I'm really grateful I can have the kind of the option to say, hey, I want to start a company, and then And I was able to through one of the Taiwan Next events, I also was able to give a 10-minute pitch on the stage and found an angel investor, totally stranger, right, on that day, who just hand me out a check after that one pitch,
Yeah.
right? So it is really amazing that there are these kind of people who are willing to bet on the people who want to pursue an idea, right? So first of all, I think that's why I was able to make that decision, and I think it doesn't mean that I'm really courageous or I'm more better than other people, right? I don't think that's the thing. I think it's in order to take that calculated risk, people need to have a support system that works for them, right, or for their family, right? So I actually don't think it is people risk averse. It's more, I think people don't know what they don't know, right? So if I have the same experience of seeing all these people, like for example, when I first moved to the US in 2000, I actually have, yeah, I don't want to, I guess I'm bluffing, right? So I have this poster of Jensen Huang in my on my desk because I was selling computers since I was 13, and I sold hundreds of computers to my friends, neighbors, and I have a repeat customer. I have word of mouth referral, but I was able to do that because when I first came over here, there's a few gamer friend. I was just doing some googling, and I found out there's this Taiwanese person who came over to the US when he was 9 or 8, and he was able to build this awesome company called Nvidia, right? So I think if I was in Taiwan, I don't. I'm not saying I'm going to be slacking off or anything, but I feel like I would just like really focus on, hey, how do I get a good grade, right? Because super tough college entrance exam, all these things. So all my attention will be focused on what's the most potential avenue to success, which is get to a good college and get to a good job, right? So I think fundamentally there are some different type of upbringing or some sort of influence from people. So they didn't have the opportunity to learn about, oh, there's a person who dropped out and just built a company, right? Hopefully now internet is very popular and people get to see more experiences of others around the world. But I think one thing I observe is because people just didn't know what they know, right? And so they can't even make a calculated risk and determine if this is a good option versus, okay, just keep working on getting into a good company, right? So I think that's the main observation I have.
Mhm.
And I have been seeing more shift though, especially in the past 3 years.
Mhm.
I After I started working on my own startup,
Mhm.
I've been able to meet a lot more of people from East Asia, especially Taiwan, who are actually working on their own product, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's a very, it shows the society in Taiwan or just the career trajectory in Taiwan now. People actually have more options to think about what they want to do, especially people who went to like whether good college or good company, right? I think a lot more people are stepping out and then trying to build things to connect more people. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, we all love Taiwan, right? We want to see how we can build a make everyone's experience in Taiwan better or make Taiwan more famous for people outside of Taiwan. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I what
Mm,
you said about calculated risk and then having that support
mm,
system to allow you to take these kinds of calculated risks. And
mhm,
then
mhm.
you also made a really good
Yes.
point about, Taiwan's kind of environment changing in the next generation,
Mm,
being able to take that kind of calculated risk. And so
yes.
I
Yes.
mean, I think that's
Mm,
great because, as Taiwan continues on the world stage, we need more people who are kind of thinking. I mean, I don't wanna say similar to the US mindset, I just mean that, they're
mm,
able to kind of adapt to that kind of, different kind of
mhm,
international mindset. Maybe not international.
mm,
I'm
mm.
I'm kind of adding words, but, away from a more traditional risk-averse model, I suppose.
Yeah. I actually think this is great because in a way that whether I think before AI, it's hard to build a small team and then launch the product, right? But now I think the options are there and people can explore more things on their side or after their on their weekends.
Mm,
I actually think that's really awesome, and And hopefully there will be more people trying to pursue in a way that this is kind of what I believe in the future. I of further job in people working, right? So because I think all the people I meet, especially in the Bay Area, they're all so talented in their own ways. They might be daytime doing this, but then at night they are doing this other thing, and then during the weekend they're actually playing music for other bar or something. There's so many people that and I think AI will help a lot of people to explore more interest and not feel stuck at one thing. Right. So I think that's something I'm very excited about. And I also see that, especially from interviewing the very younger generation, Gen Z or Gen Alpha users, I actually think that people are really free in their mind on what they want to do and what is success. Right? And I think that's something that's very beautiful. That means society is really advancing in a way that we're not gonna see as much of a 9 to 5 jobs,
Mm.
and it's more gonna be whoever can do what they can do really well will be able to make a living and maybe live something pretty live a pretty happy life, right? And it depends on how much they want to do with their time and energy, right? It doesn't mean everybody need to be a billionaire to be successful, right? You can also have some hidden cafe somewhere, and then you can still make a really good living and enjoy your life, right? I respect all of those decisions, right? And as we have a better balance with the new adoption of new tech, hopefully we can find a really good way to hybrid and co work with the new technology, right? Because there's always this fear of adoption of new technology, whether from the stone age to the metal age to all this industrial revolution, right? There's always this kind of thing. I think uh, it's still uncertainty make people scared, and the fear of change is always happening, right, throughout history. But I think I'm still more optimistic, and I think we will see the light in the end of tunnel among all these layoffs much sooner than we think. Yeah.
Mm. So that means you don't think AI will replace jobs?
I think this it's more the function, right? I
Mhm.
think some part of the function, for example, I don't know. Okay, sorry. Hopefully I'm not mistaking the truth, but I remember there's something that's about New York or something. Some of the home is pretty tall. There's this stairway that's pretty maybe a half a story high before you can get to the porch of the houses, right? Because it was designed that way because there used to be horse walking on the street, and there's always horse poop everywhere, right? But then after they invented car, everything just changed. But the structural integrity of those houses are still there, so they didn't bother changing all these things, right? So in a way, the reason why I share this story is that I think there's always going to be some transitory pain, right? So for example, when we first have the train, right, people don't need to walk anymore, but that definitely a lot of people who carry people on those 3 wheelers or something, they're gonna lose some job, right? But I think that job losing is very transitory in a way that people who are out of work in that phase will quickly find out what would be next.
Mm.
Because people are designed in a way to adapt changes so well, right? I think our body is super optimized in adapting change. That's why we're still kind of the leader of the world among other animals. I don't want to talk about aliens, but I think that's why our body can whether live on very little water but still survive for a long time, right? So because we are able to adapt a lot of changes. So I think the instead of saying AI take over job, I think it's more about I think the mentality is more how do we adapt to changes, right? Because AI is just one thing, right? Maybe 4 years ago there's Web3, and then before that it's like IoT, big data, right? There's all these things, robotic now. I think those are all the thing that we will see in our lifetime, or even pandemic, right? But how do we come up with a system adapting the change in the environment and adapting the change in our brain and our internal thoughts? That's the more important part. And only you can figure it out for yourself, right? Anyone else will tell you, hey, this is wrong. You have to do this. Sometimes it's right, but I think the individual who live with themselves throughout their lifetime should be able to identify what is really beneficial or how to adapt to changes, right? I think that's what I would focus on. So I think a lot of new jobs is being created as well, right? How do we ride the wave to kind of learn those new skills is something that should be more emphasized on than maybe because no, I think the job or the part of the job that AI can replace now are a lot of the repetitive thing or the things that people actually don't enjoy doing. Right? I think most people I talk to, I'm not representing everyone I know in the world, is more people love to create new things and find out how to be more efficient with their time, right? So they can enjoy what they really to do after work, right? So I think if you can embrace new changes and then adapt to whether new technology or right now it's called AI, that would be the more important things to focus on. Yeah.
So then is adaptability the most important piece of advice you would give to the next generation?
Yes, definitely. I think adaptability will be the always the kind of thinking about first principle, right? So I think being able to adapt, whether right now we live on Earth or in the future, maybe some people will move to other places. That would still be the kind of the fundamental kind of skills or capacity to be able to kind of fit through survival of the fittest, right? In a way, right? And I don't think there's a yeah, I don't think we can get around that, right? Because what is right now, maybe 20 years ago might be totally wrong, right? Even if you look at a lot of the science things, right? Maybe there's always different phases, there's different popularity or different type of standard, and that's always changing, and nobody have a crystal ball that can tell you what will be happening tomorrow, right? So we can really, I believe counting on yourself to find a way it's a piece for yourself. But it doesn't mean I'm right. I'm just sharing my perspective.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, if you've spoken to,
Mm,
thousands of people,
mm,
especially during the
yeah.
pandemic, maybe you have a wide
Mhm.
range of, perspective that's well-rounded.
Yeah, I think this is really funny. Now something came to my mind. Most of the time, people talk about it's kind of a mix of, especially very people you think they are really successful for maybe on paper on LinkedIn,
Mm,
but people have a lot of whether identity crisis or entitlement or imposter syndrome, right? Or the combination of those things. So I really want to maybe I know we're almost at time. I really want to share people should really focus on what what is good for them, right? But when I say good, it's not really indulging or some sort of addiction, right? It's more you know certain thing that your body will receive well, and a certain thing when you think about it, when you see it, you feel your hand is trembling or you're just really annoyed by it, right? So I think you have to figure out what is good for you and what is some area for improvement and find peace with yourself. And
mm,
whether mental wellness or physical wellness is really important, especially when I grew up. I don't think having this limitation of not being able to not work overnight is actually a blessing in a way. It really helped me prioritize what I should do and how to make my time more impactful.
mm,
Right. So instead of because I think in a way the reason why I bring it up is because a lot of time, I think 70% of all those 1,000 people I talk to, a lot of people are stressed, right? Even though they have a good job, they are stressed, right? Even though they are at a really good company, but they are stressed, they're not at the biggest tech, right? And then even though people are unemployed, they're also stressed about things, right? But I think one thing in common, I also found this very helpful. I heard it from one of my mentor is when you feel stressed right now, or if something is very bothering you, if you think about your future self in 10 years, will you feel as bothered in after 10 years, right? If not, then you can really maybe just control your breathing or just find some peace with it or find some other way or console your good friends to about the situation or rent to someone, some close friend, right? But just don't get stuck, right? Because most of the time people get stuck for all sort of reason and it's not worth the time and energy. Of course, you probably need to go through some of those hardship to really learn a way to cope with it, right? But I do feel that kind of analogy of thinking about your future self, how the future self will react to it, really helped me get out of that situation. And secondly, I think really build community, right? Whether go to Taiwan Next or build your own community from the people you feel you're vibing with more, that will go the long way. And I think lastly, like there's another thing I want to share is people always think, I think people always see what they want to see. For example, people who are not founding their company, they always see like the grass is greener on the other side, right? But actually it's not the truth, right? So I feel you're already at a place that is probably the best for you at this stage of your life. And even though it's up and down, but it's all because of the up and down that make you cherish the good moment, right? And even if you're always going up, one day it's definitely gonna go down sometime, right? Just stop, right? So don't worry about it too much, right? I think that's really hard to. Yeah, I'm not saying I already found peace, but I think I'm getting closer to find my how to live with myself. With it. So that's why all the white hairs. But I do feel this is something I cannot emphasize more enough. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't see any white hair on camera.
Okay. I have a lighting here.
But yeah, those are
Yeah.
very wise words for
Mm,
sure. Yeah. I guess one last question. Where do you see Taiwan Next's role evolving in the next few years? And what would you to see
mm.
the Taiwanese American community build together?
Well, that's a really good question. I definitely think continue what you're doing, right? I think you guys are scaling in a way that's really organic and very engaging, right? So I think that's really awesome, right? So every 100 more people join is actually really passionate about Taiwan Next or connecting Taiwan and US or the global market, right? So I think continue to do that. And then maybe one quick feedback as well is I'm curious, how do we expand to people who are kind of on the fence or don't really know about Taiwan, right? Because sometimes there's a trade-off, right? Because if you want to expand it to, if you want to expand more reach, but then the quality or the how do you define Taiwanese, right? That would be a little bit fuzzy, right? So I don't think I have a good answer, and I'm also figuring that out. But
Mhm.
I do see that in the Bay Area, I think we need to really think about global, right? Global market. Yeah, but because I know Taiwanese is a nonprofit, many in Taiwan here, right? So maybe there are other things that you guys are doing. Yeah, I would love to learn more and then see how we can help the community as well.
Mhm.
Especially in, I think one of the trend I see, I really want to tackle in, but I haven't really have that much chances. How do we help more company outside of Taiwan go to Taiwan? Right? Or vice versa, right? There's a lot of shortage of talent in the Taiwanese company in Arizona for the semiconductor, right? But how do we? It's too hard to ship all the Taiwanese to the Arizona, but at the same time, it's also hard to train the American people here to cope to that intense schedule, right? So how do we be the liaison to kind of educate both sides so there is a better match at scale, right? Because I think individually I connecting this person and that person or try to match mentor, I think that's doable, but it's very unscalable, right? Well, as an organization, especially I'm running a for-profit company, right? So I'm always thinking about how do I use the same hour but have more impact, right? But there's always a trade-off, right? So I think that's kind of what I really want to learn more or be a part of, if that's something on your roadmap to help connect more company to expand the US or get more professional, learn about Taiwan and go work there or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you raised really good points. Yeah. Thank you for your insight and your wisdom, for sharing your wisdom. Right.
Yeah, hopefully it's not rambling because yeah,
No,
I really enjoyed the talk. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
thank you
we
so much for the great question.
Oh, no, no, no. I mean, thank you
Mm.
for, kind of articulating a lot of these answers very well. I was, oh yeah, you definitely use your own product. You're a very
Yes.
eloquent speaker, so
Mm,
yeah.
mm. No, I think that's why I'm very passionate about this field, right? Because a lot of people come to me, they're like, how do you do this, right? I feel if they just do the work for themselves, or even yeah, one last thing. Oh, sorry, I'm way over time.
Okay.
I really want more people, any of the viewer, listener, or including myself, like, pat yourself more on the back because
Mm,
it's a tough world out there, right? I think we're still surviving. Already deserve appraisal. This is already really tough, especially Silicon Valley. So tough. Everything is so expensive, and then the competition is so fierce, right?
mhm.
So I don't forget to pat yourself in the back, or pat yourself, or pat your partners or your family, right? Because I think you all deserve a good rest and a good break from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree
Mm.
more. I think self-compassion and also compassion for
Yes.
everyone, around you, I think
Mm.
is very important. And, it's great that you have that kind of positivity, the optimism, and you're willing to kind of encourage not just yourself, but also other people. So thank you for
Yeah, I really believe that's what make me happy, and then I also learn so much from others because they are just so helpful, right? So through Taiwan Next, I think besides she, there's a bunch of other people who really just offer to just buy me a coffee and then listen to my stories or help to provide some advice, right?
Mhm.
So I think this is very wonderful, and then I just hope we can do more for each other, and then help everyone become more find their own path, right? To adaptability to change.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
We're lucky to have this community in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. Well, if you think of anything else,
Mm.
feel free to message me, and then
Okay.
I can add it to, because I think what I'll do is I'll
Mm.
just edit the beginning and the end because that's the easiest
Okay.
part to edit.
Okay. Sure.
And
Sure.
then I'll probably put it on YouTube, and then I'll have an article that has the transcript, and then
Mhm.
I'll translate the transcript so that there's both English and, Mandarin, or, Chinese traditional. Um,
Okay.